after your father retired, you continued wrestling and winning, of course. You became one of the sport's top young stars and drawing names for promoters. You even made a guest appearance on the Monkees a couple of times on the TV series, right?
Right, it was a TV series.
Mm-hmm.
I had a buddy that I was going to college with, and he says, why don't you get an SEC card? I mean, it's a Screen Extras Guild.
Right.
And he says, they'll call you up whenever they need you, and I did, and didn't make a big fortune, but I had a little bit of extra money.
You had a hate relationship with the fans of professional wrestling. I mean, you hated the fans, pretend, right? But the fans, they really hated you.
Well, you know what? I think if you say, well, they hated you, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. But starting off in my career, needless to say, I was, quote, a babyface. And then, of course, later on, I became not necessarily villainous, but I became very aloof and had a little bit of a nose in the air attitude type thing.
Right, you were very cocky, and often you would get disqualified and even cheat. I mean, you had the brain as your manager.
And God bless it. Let me tell you something. One of the most brilliant people the profession ever had. When I teamed up with Ray Stevens, who was one of the premier wrestlers of during that time. I have to say that Ray was better than me because he didn't look real rugged physically. I mean, he was almost maybe a little bit of a doughboy, but at the same time, he was a superb technician. And just an inch or two behind him was our manager, Bobby Heenan.
Right.
And, it's kind of like I was so lucky that I had to bring my talents to the table for whatever they were. And then teaming up with these two people, absolutely a delight.
Well, yeah, Stevens and Bockwinkel, you guys were one of the best tag teams of the era.
We were.
You guys fought the Bruiser and the Cruiser, Vern Gagne and Billy Robinson, Mad Dog and Butcher Vachon, which those guys are going to be at the reunion as well, aren't they?
Well, I don't know if they will. I don't know if the Dog will be coming this year or not, but we'll hear his bark if he comes before he gets there.
Now, you mentioned Bobby the Brain Heenan was at WrestleMania. So apparently his health has turned it's turned for the best, right?
Well, I'm not real sure of that. He fought cancer of the jaw, and then they tried to, and it destroyed the bone in his jaw, and so they took some bone from his hip and his thigh, and then they used that, didn't work. There became an infection, and then he had a metal jaw that was put together, and I'm just so happy. I mean, he probably has paid an absolutely dear price, and believe me, there were no steroids in him.
Right.
But Bobby was, to me, one of the ultimate performers in the business. He could go and stir a crowd far more and faster than myself or Ray Stevens. As far as being a wrestling personality, he was the very top of the list.
Under the firm guidance of Bobby Heenan, Bockwinkel, you won the first 4 of your AWA World Heavyweight Championships by ending Gagne's record 7-year title run in '75. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there was no question that undoubtedly I must have had the talent and the ability because Gagne was somebody who was very egotistically driven and a great amateur wrestler, and so. To come out above him or ahead of him a couple of times and to retain the title, that was a very big compliment to me.
What do you think of the current WWE Hall of Fame inductions for this year, 2009?
I think it's fantastic. To me, everything that Vince has done is ultimately where any and all of the old promoters would love to have been able to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was always talk of a Hall of Fame. Way back when Vince was a little kid, the wrestlers were still talking about it.
Really?
You know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's. I think that, you know, where McMahon took the business is exactly what any promoter, if he had the desire and the drive to. I mean, the Crockett's done it. Fritz von Erich took a stab at it, and so for Vince to have been the one who successfully did it and put it together, great compliment to him, and I think he's given the wrestling picture just such an upgraded, dedicated thing that everybody is so thrilled. I mean, everybody enjoys the game.
We had a chance to speak with Dory Funk Jr. before he was inducted into the Hall of Fame at this year's induction at WrestleMania. And he mentioned that during WCW Slamboree of '93, when he squared off against you in that event, that was one of the highlights of his career.
Well, I would definitely say the same thing. I mean, there's an elite crowd of whether it was in WWE, NWA, AWA. There's an elite crowd of maybe 20 star talents in the profession. Dory Funk Jr., definitely one of them. Mm-hmm. Terry Funk, definitely one of them. Jack Briscoe, definitely. And so, you know, you just none of all those guys who were honored or received a certain title, they deserved them, every one of them.
What are your thoughts on Andre the Giant?
God bless him. He I thought was one of the most unique creatures in the world. I one time had the good fortune to survive a 1-hour match with him.
Survive.
Yeah, you know, you don't ever plan on maybe trying to think that you can beat him unless you hit him with a baseball right in the middle of his head. Yeah, I mean, and he loved the wrestling game, and so like I say, to wrestle him for 1 hour, mind you, I was doing a lot of escaping.
Yeah.
You know, and hiding behind the ring post.
Right. Jerry Lawler. He's currently with the WWE as a commentator. What are your thoughts on him?
Jerry, I thought, was probably the most premier piece of talent to come out of the South, and I wrestled him, God Almighty, I guess a dozen times, and I have to say that I had to respect and admire his talent and his ability, and I saw him maybe about a year or so ago, and occasionally when he's got some time off from WWE, he wrestles still around, you know, Memphis, Tennessee area, and he says, "Jesus, Bach," he says, "have you got one more left in you?" And I said, "I'd like to think so, but I don't. I'm not going to give it a shot."